Hi, this is Beth Butler with Hope Unlimited, where we help overwhelmed professionals excel. Today, I'd like to talk to you briefly about the idea of environmental triggers and productivity. An environmental trigger is something that when you walk into a certain space or you see a certain area, your mind is triggered into a mode of doing certain type of work in that area. Now, I am not claiming to be a scientist at all. I'm coining this term, and somebody else may have actually come up with it. This is not based on a lot of research or anything. This is just my own thoughts about how certain environments can trigger certain types of productivity and how you could train yourself to be more productive, perhaps by looking at these environmental triggers. So, for example, in your workspace at your desk, when you come to sit down, do you feel triggered to become productive, or does it trigger you to get off on tangents, maybe looking at social media and various other distractions? Is the way your desk is set up, does it turn on a switch to you when you walk into your office that it's time for work? I work at home, and so thankfully I'm able to have a separate room be my office, and I don't do a whole lot of personal pursuits in that room. I can't say that 100% of the time I'm always doing business work, because I do get caught down in rabbit trails of social media primarily. But I don't use that room for other hobbies too much. I don't want to be like where it's 100% again. But for the most part, the majority of time, that office is about being in work mode, in business, Hope Unlimited business mode. And I'm not in the room very much on weekends at all. So I kind of keep it as almost a separate place I commute to. There's also other places though you might work for you, like coffee shops. I like to work at various coffee shops occasionally, and so there are two to five places in our county that I think of as third space type work spots for me. Again, I don't have an office outside of my home office, so this gives me a chance to go get out and be among people a little bit or just be in a different environment. So those places tend to trigger to me uh, work and creativity. In fact, there's one that I have, even when I worked for other employers, there was a space or two, especially one space, that I would go to off hours or prior to going into work for the other employer, and it just was kind of a motivation. It was my space, more for my business and for other creativity. You may have, if you work from home too, or from another office, you may have a second location, say at a park or on a porch or something like that. Something that I'm thinking of doing is I like to sit out on the front uh, small deck landing kind of thing. It's not a big porch, but it's enough room for a chair with an umbrella and a couple small pieces of furniture. And I like to sit out there and relax out there and do creative things or read. And something I'm experimenting with thinking in my mind about is to keep myself focused on that being an area of either relaxation or focused work, but no social media. Because social media tends to be a trap I fall into for a connection with people and as a hobby, but it can go too far in the amount of time I spend on it. I'm wondering if it might help, because I like to sit out on that porch, to tell myself that when I sit on the porch, I'm to pursue a hobby. I like to color, paint rocks, that kind of thing, or maybe read a book or read a business newspaper, but not read social media. Only exception being if I'm actually sitting out there on the clock for a client and it involves social media work. So I'm wondering about that. I'm thinking, because of this environmental trigger idea, I'm thinking about making the porch be an environmental trigger for um, reading, because I want to increase my regular reading instead of my social media, and replace some of the social media time. So that's just a thought. Other environmental triggers include things like, your cup of coffee or tea. That type of thing might trigger that it's time to start work. But figure out for you, in your routines and in your rhythms, what triggers certain things. When you walk into a certain room, what do you first think of doing? Do you first think of collapsing and relaxing? That's all right in certain cases. Or if you work at home, Are you finding a struggle because you're trying to work at the dining room table and there's a lot of other personal stuff going on? It may be better to carve out a space that when you walk into, even if it's like a walk-in closet that you make into your own office, because cubicles aren't that big, a lot of workspaces, so you could make a closet work even. Just something that visually and mentally is like, okay, it's work time. This is a trigger of work, or this is the place I go to relax and unwind. This is the place I go take a nap, things like that. So I encourage you, whether you work from home or you work from an office or combination of the few, maybe you, like me, pick a few coffee shops in your area that you like to work at and you associate certain tasks with that coffee shop. Begin to think intentionally so that when you get to those locations, your brain is already ready to kick into gear, that it's time to work on that type of project or work for that client or work or relax in a certain way. And see if that makes you a little bit more productive and manage your time a little better. I'd love to hear the results of your experiment with this. So feel free to contact me through my website, bethbuetler.com/contact. And let me know what you think, or comment on below on the video or wherever else you might see this shared on social media. I'd love to hear that, how those environmental triggers work for you or not. Thanks so much, and I hope you'll subscribe to YouTube for our future tips, and I appreciate you being part of the Hope family in taking in our content, and hopefully we can continue to help you feel a little less overwhelmed. Have a great day.